just and sustainable world since 1979. WMNF Tampa, where music, news, and culture collide.
It was supposed to be a glancing blow, but Helene proved to be an unprecedented catastrophe, with a historic storm surge delivering a devastating blow to Tampa Bay and beyond. But from first responders to selfless neighbors, stories of courage and resilience abound. On Saturday, October 19th at 2 p.m., WMNF and Living Mirror will offer a forum for those stories to be told in our live music studio, then played back via improvisational theater to facilitate healing and furthering the conversation on climate change. This show is free, and you can reserve your seat at wmnf.org/events.
You are tuned to WMNF Radio, 88.5 FM in Tampa. This is the public affairs program called Community Speaks, and I'm your host, Patro Mavili. And of course, this is an opportunity to talk with you. Irene stands ready to take your telephone calls, but you can also write me, DJ, at WMNF.org. Today is a good day to focus on economic issues and human rights. Florida continues to recover from the back-to-back storms, Helene and Milton. There are opportunities to get help around the area. Federal Emergency Management Agency can be reached can be applied for individual assistance through FEMA at 800-621-3362, 800-621-3362, or FEMA.gov. More information is on our website, WMNF.org. And as you might have heard in the promo earlier, that on October 19th, the Living Mirror will be getting your stories right here at the radio station, so you can come and share your stories about these storms. And, you know, having such a community opportunity can give us some indicators as to what to do going forward in terms of protecting ourselves and the communities and being prepared. And you could also find Pasco County is announcing locations providing water and meals. But today is also Indigenous Peoples Day. It is being celebrated with an eye on the U.S. election. Talk a little bit more about that. And from the Human Rights Files, a look at Haiti and how the gangs are recruiting starving children to fight the security forces. And we'll talk about, get into more details about what people are writing about that. But as I said, the economy is foremost on our minds today. On my mind, the Nobel Economics Prize has been awarded for research into how poor institutions affect countries' success. The wealth of nations is, as you heard, been a preoccupation of economists since Adam Smith's time. So that's a long time ago. And we'll talk a little bit more about the implications there. But this is Community Speaks, talking about Indigenous Peoples Day, talking about digging out from the storm in the elections. Vice President Kamala Harris is laying out a new plan to empower black men as she tries to energize black men to vote in the upcoming election for the Democratic ticket. She's announcing a series of proposals that was designed to give black men more economic opportunities as she works to energize this key voting bloc that has Democrats concerned about a lack of enthusiasm, at least on their part. But I'm not finding that, even though there's always these opportunities that the Republicans take to divide and conquer. They're using a lot of lies and disinformation, not just here in this country and during this election, but we're seeing this strategy used by backward countries, especially like Putin's Russia, using disinformation and propaganda on the continent of Africa, causing a threat to any democratic institutions that may have taken place, especially in the Sahel region, those three countries where the military juntas have taken over and overthrown the voice and the choice of the people. 813-239-9663 is the number to call if you want to join a discussion with me here on Community Speaks here on your non-commercial radio station, WMNF. And you can write me, DJ, at WMNF.org. And, black men have been doing a meeting each week after Kamala Harris had become the presumptive nominee for the Democratic ticket, and in advance of her choosing Tim Walz as her running mate, men have been talking about what this opportunity means. And so the vice president has unveiled a plan ahead of her visit to the battleground state of Pennsylvania, where she will visit a black-owned small business and hold a campaign rally. Her push comes after former President Barack Obama suggested last week that some black men aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. So he's identified some sexism in terms of the election that might be doing a lot to dampen enthusiasm. But one of the co-chairs of Harris's campaign and a former Louisiana congressman who is black said Harris wants to build an economy where black men are equipped with the tools to thrive, to buy a home, provide for their families, and start a business and build wealth. And as I said, we're also looking at Indigenous Peoples Day today, celebrating that. And this is with an eye on the election as well, as many Native Americans across the United States will come together for celebrating today's date to celebrate their history and culture and acknowledge the ongoing challenges they face with a focus on this election. And there will be events today ranging from a voting rally in Minneapolis to a public talk about the Native vote at Virginia Tech. The holiday comes about 3 weeks before Election Day, so events will be geared toward Native voter mobilization and outreach amid renewed recognition of the power of their votes. While it is not yet a federal holiday, Indigenous Peoples Day is observed in 17 states as Native Americans, have replaced Columbus Day, which has also been celebrated. There's been some new DNA that come forward to find out that Columbus was of Sephardic Jew, which means he was from Spain. And that's an interesting story in and of itself. We'll probably hear more about that going forward. But from a voting rally in Minneapolis, and the Native voters proved decisive back in 2020 in the presidential election. Voter turnout on tribal land in Arizona increased dramatically compared with the previous presidential election, helping Joe Biden win a state that hadn't supported a Democratic candidate in a White House contest since 1996. And one of the executive director of the National Urban Indian Family Coalition is involved with at least a dozen of these types of voting events. Not hearing much about these type of Native American events here in the state of Florida. Want to hear more about that and then what the general thinking is here in Florida. We know that historically, Native Americans have been used as a bulwark against other groups such as Black Americans here in the state of Florida. And this idea of divide and conquer is very real again today. So we like to hear what the mindset is going forward here in this country in the run-up to the election. It comes to all peoples. But human rights is also on my mind, and we're looking at what is happening in Haiti, the understanding that security forces are there to try to quell the violence that the gangs have provided, have been engaging in when they've been given, this carte blanche from other politicians in the country who have given them guns. We've seen some gun running going on from Florida to Haiti, and now those guns are being used against security forces. We saw that Kenya has sent security forces there to help the police deal with violence in the country of Haiti, and now starving children being exploited to pick up guns and in the name of helping the gangs to fight the security forces. That's to me a human rights violation that we need to talk more about going forward if we're gonna begin to get a handle on what is happening there. We can't just simply be hands off, because there's a lot of people in Haiti that needs the world's help right now, and a lot of people stand ready to do something, whether it's going to be a good thing or not. There are a lot of people who are willing to do bad, but who's going to stand up and help quell what is happening, especially when it comes to children? It's so easy to exploit starving children, and that's, a human rights violation that we need to be on top of. 813-239-9663 is the number to call if you want to join a discussion here on Community Speaks about these critical times. I'm going to find more about the Haitian children, find out how this process is happening. There's a story that goes into more detail that I have to find, but we're going to talk more about what is happening around the world in terms of human rights and in terms of the economy, in terms of economic issues. As I said, the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded today, dealing with an age-old question of the wealth of nations. It's research into how poor institutions affect a country's success, and has that, played out right here in this country. As we talk about the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics, as I said, was awarded today, and to 3 economists who have studied why some countries are rich and others are poor, and have documented that free or open societies are more likely to prosper. And the question is, does everybody prosper? Economists Daron Acemoglu and Simon Johnson and James A. Robinson have demonstrated the importance of societal institutions for a country's prosperity. The Nobel Committee said of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. They said that at the announcement in Stockholm, Sweden. And these 3 economists, they did work. 2 of them did work at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Robinson at the University of Chicago. That's James A. Robinson. The charity committee for the prize in economic sciences said their research has provided a much deeper understanding of the root causes of why countries fail or succeed. One of them said the research honored by the prize underscores the value of democratic institutions, but he added democracy is not a panacea. Introducing democracy is very hard. When you introduce elections, that sometimes creates conflict. Those who hate democracy also take advantage of elections. But Robinson said some societies have successfully made the transition to what he and other economists call an inclusive society. And that seems to be the key, of course. Inclusion is key. There are many examples in world history of societies like that do well for 40, 50 years. And what you see is that's never sustainable. That's the Soviet Union did well for 50 or 60 years. But this is according to economist Robinson. So some societies have successfully made the transition to what they call an inclusive society. And to their work, the winners look, for instance, at the city of Nogales, which straddles the U.S.-Mexico border. And despite sharing the same geography, climate, and common culture, life is very different on either side of the border. In Nogales, Arizona, to the north, residents are relatively well off and live long lives. Most children graduate from high school. And to the south, in Mexico's Nogales, Sonora, residents are much poorer, and organized crime and corruption abounds. So that's one example that they've pointed out, and we could talk more about that. I'm thinking about some issues, some cities right here in the United States, where people have said, these cities look like little colonies, as we've seen colonization devastate local economies, and the people who live in those societies are getting poorer and poorer, while those who live in the ruling society continues to grow richer. 813-239-9663. I want to hear your stories about economies, your human rights stories, and what's on your mind in the globe today, and also your storm stories. 813-239-9663 here on Community Speaks as we talk to one another. Go ahead. We'll see what Josh has to say out of Clearwater. Go ahead, Josh. You say what?
Yeah, thank you. I'm really happy Monday. Hope everyone's safe from the storm. My casualty, I must report that one of those live oaks took out my garage, and I'm on day 3 of chopping up the whole tree and getting it out of there. But I just wanted to comment on Haiti. As I've called before, talking about Haiti, something that me and my father watched for 40 years. And again, I think the best way to help Haiti is to increase the quota, to allow Haitians to come here. And I beg all listeners to keep that in their hearts, because as everyone sees and as you reported, gun smuggling and troops in Haiti and lots of children in trouble over there. And it's an island. There's nowhere for them to go. And I think it gives everyone even more reason to not vote for Donald Trump, because he thinks Haitians eat dogs in Ohio. And that's the worst comment that I could hear in such a campaign as mine, to try to convince others to allow more Haitians to come to this country, because that's the best solution I know to help Haitians. And that's all I wanted to comment on today.
It's on a temporary protected status basis, especially, if nothing else.
Well, more of the theory that Haitians are very proud of their country. They don't want anyone's help. They want to help themselves. So one of the best ways to help themselves is to allow Haitians to come here, to educate themselves, start businesses, to create trade back to Haiti. It'll be a long road, but honestly, I believe that's the only road to get the human rights that young Haitians need. Because right now, I mean, building one hotel is not going to help. Building one business is not going to help. But maybe significant and ever-increasing trade between the United States and Haiti would be a good thing.
Yeah, you say you were there.
That can be done by Haiti. No, I've never allowed to go to Haiti. My grandmother died there when she was 102 years old. My dad was a revolutionary in Haiti. He was booted out of the country for fighting against dictators and trying to help the poor maybe 30, 40 years ago. And my dad passed away about 7 years ago. But because of my last name, I'm a marked man if I land in Haiti. Only the women in my family can travel back to Haiti. So it is what it is. And
but you're still advocating,
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of family in Coral Gables and in Florida and New York City. And I still have family in Haiti. My grandmother did pass away at 102 years old. She gave all of her land when the dictators were gone and they put the Catholic priests back in power with an election. She got her land back, and she gave it to all the poor people that built little shacks and things on her land. So my family's done what they can for Haitians and the people and my own blood. But there's only so much that one family can do or a bunch of families can do. It's an island. There's a lot of children there. A lot of the population's under 12 years old. These problems have been going on forever, and only in the last couple of years it's getting worse. It's never getting better. Between earthquakes, gangs, violence, you name it. Again, there's not a lot of natural resources there. There's not a lot of opportunity for international trade. There is a free trade agreement already. But again, I advocate the best solution for Haiti is to allow more immigrants to come to the United States from Haiti so they can develop themselves, and I guarantee the Haitians will go back themselves and create trade and create business. And the more business and the more trade with the United States that exists, I believe things will finally quiet down over there. Again, it's a long road, not a short road, but that's the best solution over the course of my lifetime, which I'll be 46 soon, and it's been something at my kitchen table for 40 years. And I'm telling you, for 40 years, it's been one thing after another, and that's the best solution I got.
Hey, thank you, Josh, for your story, and maybe you have an opportunity to share your story in print, because I think that's that's an example. That's a great example. Your family has a history of helping in Haiti that people can learn from. Thank you, Josh.
Thank
you. 813-239-9663 is the number to call if you want to add a comment here on Community Speaks. And staying on the subject of Haiti, because that's on my mind a lot. As I said, these powerful armed groups are increasingly recruiting children into their ranks amid this growing humanitarian crisis. The global human rights watchdog has warned that this is happening, with girls sexually abused and forced into domestic work, and hundreds, if not thousands, of children driven by hunger and poverty have in recent months joined gangs and were forced to commit criminal acts ranging from extortion and looting to killing and kidnapping. Human Rights Watch said this in a report published on Wednesday. Boys are often used as informants, trained to use weapons and ammunition, and deployed in clashes against the police, according to this Human Rights Watch report. One of the boys that were interviewed, a 14-year-old named Michael, said he had joined a gang when he was 8. He said he didn't have parents and lived on the street. He usually ran errands or participated in roadblocks. And there were 4 other kids in the group, 13 or 11 years old. Haiti has been rocked by escalating violence since February, when gangs launched attacks on prisons and other state institutions across the capital, Port-au-Prince. The unrest spread to other parts of the Caribbean nation and has displaced more than 700,000 people, according to the United Nations. According to the testimonies gathered by Human Rights Watch, girls are raped and forced to cook and clean for gang members, and often abandoned once they become pregnant. The one gang leader of Brooklyn and Cité Soleil says his henchmen he told his henchmen to bring him a virgin girl every month. And with the boss doing this, there's no way to stop others who do the same thing. And it's according to a humanitarian worker who revealed to the New York-based group Human Rights Watch. So Human Rights Watch has been taking testimonials and keeping a close watch on what is happening to the children in this state of severe hunger. According to them, severe hunger was the main reason for the children joining the criminal groups. They said the state was absent. There were no police in their neighborhoods, and they had no legal, economic, or social opportunities to earn a living or buy food or access basic necessities. Haiti's gangs have been expanding their influence in recent years, while state institutions have been paralyzed by lack of funds and political crises. So gangs now have control. Now they control over 2.7 million people, territory where 2.7 million people live. That's including 500,000 children. So these children are very vulnerable to the gangs, who really just care more about power and demonstrating that power and acting like, old style fascists. That the report said gangs are increasingly using the popular social media apps to attract recruits. So Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, instead of all your lying, get on there and see what you can do to make that harder for the gangs to do. The leader of the Village gang is one of the village gangs is a rapper and publishes music videos of his soldiers. The rights group said it interviewed 58 people, including children associated with criminal groups, humanitarian workers, diplomats, and representatives of Haitian civil society and UN agencies in Port-au-Prince over the summer, and in addition to 20 remotely. And the UN approved Haiti's request for a multinational police mission to help the country's police fight the gangs. That was a year ago, but it has so far only been partially deployed. Of course, there are some geopolitical attitudes against, using international forces in Haiti, but really, what else is there to do? And as Josh said, a lot of what could help is allowing some immigration here to this country so that people can get it together to go back and basically re-empower themselves here so they can go back home and empower themselves there. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. Just wanted to take a time out as we were looking at human rights. The issue of what's happening to children in Haiti is foremost on my mind today. You could also write me, DJ at WMNF.org, here on the radio. And I'll try to read some of your messages here on the radio. This storm has given me an opportunity to do a lot of reading, catching up on some reading. We've been looking at, I was reading one book that was gifted to me from right here at WMNF, called The Torture Machine, talking about racism and violence among the police department in Chicago. This book was written from the standpoint of the lawyer who gave us a first-hand account of the legal issues that were involved in a lot of these police cases, starting with the Fred Hampton case, who was killed by Chicago police back in 1971. He and the other Panther that died that same night. There's ended up being a $1.8 million settlement to the family of Fred Hampton, and the police department was revealed to have been using a torture machine that was basically a homemade machine that was shocking. It had shocking devices on it to attach to the body, and they were using that in the police department. We're going to find out in this book. This book gives us a lot of details of the legal wrangling that helped put these police officers in prison and get to the bottom of these cases. So one good thing about having no electricity was it was an opportunity, at least during the daylight hours, to catch up on some great reading. And I'm just wondering if you've been doing any reading lately. Share with us what you have been reading here on Community Speaks as we talk about some of the global issues, economic issues especially, and we're looking at Indigenous Peoples Day as well, and with an eye on the election and a lot of the issues that are on your mind as you go to the polls to vote. We know that, also some of the economic issues when we look at the wealth of nations and why the Nobel Peace Prize was given to these particular economists and what they've been working on in terms of the wealth of nations. This is all it's part of the analysis when we look at the historical nature, not just of these colonies around, such as Haiti, and the economic issues surrounding Black people inside the country, the indigenous people, the Native American people inside this country. The historical nation of the wealth of nations is always at work in these economic issues that these economies are working on. And in their work, the economists that were just awarded the prize studied institutions that European powers such as Britain and Spain put in place when they colonized much of the world starting in the 1600s. They brought different policies to different places, giving later researchers a natural experiment to analyze colonies that were sparsely populated offered less resistance to foreign rule and therefore attracted more settlers. And in those places, colonial governments tended to establish more inclusive economic institutions that incentivized settlers to work hard and invest in their new homeland. In turn, this led to demands for political rights that gave them a share of profits. That's according to the Nobel Committee. And in some densely populated places that attracted fewer settlers, the colonial regimes limited political rights and set up institutions that focused on benefiting a local elite at the expense of the wider population. So paradoxically, this means that the parts of the colonized world that were relatively the most prosperous around 500 years ago are now those that are relatively poor. It noted that India's industrial production exceeded the the American colonies in the 18th century. So the Economist Prize is formerly known as the Bank of Sweden Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel. The central bank established it in 1968 as a memorial to Nobel, the 19th century Swedish businessman and chemist who invented dynamite and established the 5 Nobel Prizes. And though Nobel purists stress that the Economics Prize is technically not a Nobel Prize, it is always presented together with the others on December the 10th, the anniversary of Nobel's death in 1896. So you'll hear more about Nobel, but these issues that were dramatized with the giving of the Economics Prize, this again is a research into how poor institutions affect a country's success. And so as we look at the Americas, we see that, Black people are still trying to find inclusion and equality in this country. Native Americans, the same, still trying to find inclusion and equality and empowerment in this country. And so the economic issues are also important, especially when we look at the question of nations and the wealth of nations. But we want to hear more from you, especially as we are still trying to find our footing, especially economically, and a lot of people need some help after the storm. You can call us 813-239-9663. And as I said, there's a lot of help, from Federal Emergency Management Association. You can go on our website at WNF.org and read about it. But, it was it was devastating to see after the last storm so many lies and misinformation that was being thrown around, for political purposes. The right wing looks for any opportunity to lie in order to energize their base. That's the only way they can energize their base is to tell lies. And lies about a storm, just as they did lies about a pandemic, is just incredible that that's the reality in this country, where everybody's supposed to be, adults and responsible, but it's not always, their language is not always adult and responsible. You do it, we were taught as kids not to do, and that is to lie. 813-239-9663 is the number to call if you want to join and add a comment to the discussion. What do you know about how you're navigating getting gas? I understand there's some free gas around that I'm sure a lot of people could use it right now. Give us a call and let us know what you're finding out. I understand there's an app called Gas Buddy that is helping people navigate where to go and get gas. But, here's a country, a state rather, that constantly complains about the Democrats being socialists. And yet in the time of a storm, socialism is where we go to because, giving free gas can be seen as socialist, just as you call a lot of people on the right call a lot of what the Democrats have done as socialist. This is definitely a time when it is needed and it's necessary. Just as, during the time of the pandemic, you needed a vaccine, and some people doesn't even believe in vaccines. So if they had been in power, we probably would never have gotten a government to buy the vaccine for those of us who wanted it. And a lot of people would have died. A lot more people would have died. They opened up too soon where people couldn't social distance. Schools couldn't always socially distant their students, so a lot of people being, under the rule of conservative governors wanted people to reopen faster than they needed to or should have, and a lot more people probably got sick and died. And but I know that once we got the vaccine, it was great that we had a president that understood the need to distribute it to everyone equally. Everyone who, this government bought up the vaccine and made sure that everyone got some. And we had some concern about poor nations getting access to the vaccine. And I guess those who didn't want it, we were able to send some of it to poorer nations, especially on the continent of Africa. And now, we still have some places dealing with another outbreak of mpox. And but COVID continues to undergo strains that continues to change. And so the vaccine itself had to change. And so I understand today there's a new vaccine being rolled out. And for those who want to make certain that they take advantage of that opportunity, go and do so. But it's great that, we have governors and a president that understands the need when the needs arise, and not play politics, especially irresponsible politics, calling something that isn't socialist. And when you need help, then it's okay to distribute things for free, which is, by all intents and purposes, socialist. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. If you want to join the discussion, you can write me, DJ, at WNF.org. I know there's some things, got to be a lot of things on your mind, especially as we are trying to dig out and navigate how to economically get back on track here in this state. As I said, there are people who still need power. There's some people who need food replaced. There are people who need gas to get around and get their children around as we try to get life back to normal. Go to our website at WMNF.org. Find out more information about where to go and get federal emergency management help, FEMA's help. Go to FEMA.gov as well. 813-239-9663. We want to hear more from you. As I said, there'll be an opportunity to talk about what you're all going through as we have our Living Mirror event here next Saturday. But meanwhile, same old politics continue to take place. Some FEMA workers, like in North Carolina, say there have been threats against them. Why? I have no idea why people would threaten people who are trying to help. But there have been threats against FEMA employees responding to at least Hurricane Helene during Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. And so I'm certain those workers are worried about how to move forward after this particular hurricane. We know that North Carolina, some reason, got hit hard after Helene. But according to some Facebook posts by a sheriff in Ashe County, North Carolina, he said regarding the alleged threats against FEMA workers, this has not happened in Ashe County, but out in the abundance of caution, they have paused their processes. They are assessing the threats. Just don't understand, but I guess this is part of the whole conservative anti-government movement. Anything that's federal has to be hated. And we've seen some governors, especially conservative governors like the one right here in Florida who's done that. And after Helene did not declare emergency and wouldn't take a lot of federal help. We saw that happens quite a bit on the conservative side in this country when there's progressive or Democrat in the White House who won't take help. So threats to FEMA employees have been consistent during the hurricane response, along with the misinformation, and this is according to federal authorities. Search and rescue efforts in the affected areas continue, but a FEMA spokesperson said that the agency continues to support communities impacted by both storms. And as I say, you can go to our website, go to FEMA.org to see what help you can get, but definitely take advantage of whatever help you can in the aftermath of the storm. Of course, This is the public affairs program called Community Speaks, and of course, next hour we'll get back to the music with It's the Music Monday, as Blandon Whalen brings us the music. It's a great show that comes on every Monday, so you don't want to miss that, but that'll be following The Scoop, where we'll get news updates from our local newsroom right here at WMNF, locally produced, and give you some greater information about where to go to get help and where to go to get some kind of relief in the aftermath of the storm. So, and of course, all the latest news, you want to stay tuned for The Scoop, and we'll get back to the music. But right now, you're tuned to Community Speaks here on WMNF, and want to hear more from you as we continue to talk about and respond to what is happening on the globe, not only in the aftermath of the storm, where to get help, but also looking at the human rights issues, especially in Haiti. And we're also celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day here on October 14th. This is an opportunity, as I said, some Indigenous people are taking a close look at where they are right now in as we run up to an election. They are coming together to talk about what's going on in their community as well, how they're being impacted by all of these issues. And I'll be curious to understand what you feel about these issues. And like I said, while Indigenous Peoples Day is not yet a federal holiday, it is observed in 17 states. The word on what this state is doing as a state to talk about it, but we definitely have a history that needs to be talked about. Democracy is indigenous. Power of the native vote is one of those town hall meetings that they'll be having in Phoenix, Arizona, but that sounds like something we need to be having everywhere right now. Talking about, because we've seen some pretty bad actors when it comes to Native American and the way they've been treated as a group, even in this state. 813-239-9663 is the number to call and go back to the telephone lines. Looks like Ron is calling us from Mango. Go ahead, Ron. You want to add what?
Yeah. Greetings, Adile. Just out here, like everybody else, bemused by what is taking place, but a lot of this stuff that we're looking at could have been dealt with a little different. When they always come out preemptive something, this is some of the stuff they should have preempted. Especially like people had to come in to rescue. When I was in Biloxi, Mississippi, in the military, they had us trained for stuff like this happen. We had to break out stretchers and help people and, simulate all of that there. So stuff like that should be taught to kids and people, in general. And the other thing is, where I live at, there's so many trees and stuff down on power lines and stuff, which is causing a setback. So I noticed that they've got a lot of the businesses up and running, but for the general taxpayer, you got a delay because, like I said, they could have, or I didn't say, they could have taken a lot of the youth and trained them in the arbor techniques and the how to do this arbor properly, because out here they have the trees cut back off. Some of them hang over the road. They just cut the limbs up. And I saw some that was down, just leaning on top of the wire. They've been there all along, but they just holding, the wire's not even broke. It's just the trees hanging on. But they've been there. I used to look at it and say, hey, man, a good storm, that's going to be right. And, you can see it. So my thing is, they could have used a lot of the monies up front to employ the youth and everybody to help do that right there, just like that, in a lot of areas. And that would have saved a lot of property damage, a lot of time, and especially a lot of money, because people coming in from other states and they taking advantage. We got piles up like, 4 or 5 feet high in front of everybody's place, man. I'm like, wow.
I knew that the wind was going to be a problem, but we don't always take that to its logical conclusion that uprooted trees ultimately ended up being a lot of people's problems.
Yeah, it don't matter. My son was talking about the pine best to have the oaks, but I see around here a lot of the oaks are split and uprooted by I'm talking about, you see the whole bottom like something snatched them right up out the ground. I'm like, wow, mighty powerful, like I was saying. But hopefully everybody, we didn't have a loss of a lot of life behind it. I see a lot of property, but those things are replaceable. But we should be making a concerted effort to do better. Is my point.
Right, learn from
the
it.
whole thing is. Yeah, but it's still being overly politicized. I mean, they got the military here, the National Guard here, got all these people. No more day 5 of no power. So
really, still no power
with little kids and stuff. Little kids, all of that. So what they say, I don't know. But the other thing I wanted to leave with you when you was talking about Haiti is we the same as Haiti. I believe the stuff you described as Haiti was right over here. Like most of the stuff that's happening, but. The differentiate is we got hate groups doing all this terroristic stuff to communities and stuff and to human beings. They got a guy I was watching before your show started. This guy was talking about this incident where the guy got hung in North Carolina. Then how in the little towns they be covering stuff up. And in that same little town, they just started having brochures fly about the KKK. It was supposed to be on the internet. He was saying how it could be, on the internet like that, and nobody don't know who did it and why. So they was looking into it and found out it was way out of Pennsylvania somewhere that they was pushing the propaganda, but they was recruiting people for the Triple K very heavily. The people woke up with flyers all over their yards. So, I don't know who's doing it, but it's a lot of almost 2,000. Hate groups in this country right here, and that's just too much division, man. That's just a lot of division.
Surreptitiously, they throw around flyers just to throw their message around. And I didn't know that you had spent time in Biloxi, Mississippi. Maybe that's why you seem so familiar to me, like family.
Yeah, no, I said it when you said it. I was like, oh, Mobile from Mississippi. I said, oh, that was a terrible little place. We'll get into it sometime. They guided us for, we used to stand on the corner. I had a friend from Chicago. He liked to sing, so he'd get there and try to sing. But basically, me, I just used to hang out for the party. We'd go sit there and drink and stuff. And they eventually ran us off the corners, made a big Biloxi, Mississippi sheriff run us home one day because we went to the club like that. We would walk from the base to the club, man. We walked everywhere. I had about 4 or 5 friends. That's why I know about community and, people. It takes people to be people because without them people, man, I don't know what I'd have did or whatever. I used to sit there and watch planes land and take off. That was my pastime until I started hanging out with them guys. But I met them, and I met some of them later on after we went different ways. I met the same people, man. Yeah. And it was still cool. We was always cool. So, it's like that when you meet people from places and you've been places, it's always a frequency there.
Yeah.
We had some footprints in the same footprints in patterns. I've been all through there, Alabama and
well, I've seen you guys out doing a lot of work to help the community as well. And it was you wasn't just partying. I mean, I don't know if you were always there doing a lot of the work, but it was always a great response after hurricanes.
Right. Yeah, no, they that's what I'm saying. In Mississippi, they make you train like that. That was not part of our job. That was something at that particular base that they put in your jacket and that you do. And like I'm saying, we take a little time off to go parlay a little bit because if something jump off, we got to be on point. So every little time was counting with us. We used to get our party on too.
Yeah. Well, let me see if we can get some more on Ryan real quick. I know we're running out of time. I want to see what Sister Connie has to say. Go ahead, Connie. You're on the air.
Hey, thank you. I want to kind of concur with what Ron just said. When you look at the fact that a lot of the power companies are coming in from various states, if there was multiple issues statewide, then I don't know if you could count on them because they would have to tend to the affairs of their state, right? So it seemed to me that there needs to be more training, more apprentice programs to bring people that we can utilize to come into the workforce. And as far as these trees, I mean, everybody loved the grand oak, but some of these trees were, of course, Mother Nature did what she did, but a lot of them was decayed and needed to be removed. But, of course, that's another fight, and hopefully there will be some valuable lessons learned moving forward, that people would utilize, vocational skills and encourage more young people to take on those type of professions, because 2025 and 2026 going to be a hurricane season as well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for that. And it's the lessons learned. And I mean, the idea that people had to come from other states, is important, because if you're in a less affected state, then, you're probably going to be a lot more helpful. But there are some people who came from Canada. They had to wait for people to come from Canada, because Amara, which owns Tico, is, got some operations in Canada. His home office is in Canada, I do believe. And so it took some time to get that extra help down here. And I'm sure they had to take time to get to learn the region and understand where the problems really lie that they needed to really focus on, take care of the people who are most affected in smaller areas like an apartment complex. There are a lot of people who are in one place who are affected by one downed line. 813-239. We're running out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and get on out and make room for the getting back to some music. I know you want to hear some music here on, as we're in the aftermath, but human rights issues, economic issues, the election, especially on the minds of indigenous peoples on this day. So we're going to continue to keep our minds on those issues as we get back to the music here on your community radio station. Been getting some emails. I'm going to study a lot of those emails, because there's a lot of great information in some of these emails that are very long, but it's going to be important to understand exactly, every word. So I'm going to go ahead and get on out and make room for that. But I'm going to continue to read through a lot of what you have written today. There's a lot on your minds. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read some of those emails, but not on the air. But like I said, go to our website, WNF.org, and look for more FEMA information where you can get some help there. I know there's a lot of people who need some help, but without misinformation. So, FEMA has prepared for that as well. Go there and find the truth. Go to our website, find the truth. Thank you for listening to Community Speaks, and for calling me, joining me, writing me, and keeping our minds focused on these issues of human rights, the children, and the economy, the elections. We're going to continue with those subjects next week here on Community Speaks. My name is Patro Mobili, your host. Stay tuned as we get back to the music. Lanny Whalen here on your radio station. It's the Music Mondays coming next.
WMNF, speaking truth to power since 1979.
This is The Scoop for Monday.
I'm Sean Canan with the WMNF News headlines. There are dangerous flood conditions on several local rivers because of excessive rainfall during Hurricane Milton. Be aware of flooding in these locations: Myakka River at Myakka River State Park, Manatee River near Myakka Head, Little Manatee River near Waimama at US 301, Alafaya River at Riverview near US 301 and at Lithia Pinecrest Road, Anclote River near Elfers, Cypress Creek at State Road 54, the Hillsborough River at Fowler Avenue, at Morris Bridge Road and at the State Park, and the Peace River at State Road 60. Florida has secured approval of a major disaster declaration for Hurricane Milton from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. You can apply online at disasterassistance.gov or call 800-621-3362. The University of South Florida announced yesterday that the Tampa and Sarasota Manatee campuses will reopen today, and the St. Petersburg campus will reopen tomorrow. Most public schools are closed today. The Duke Energy Florida outage map says that as of 5 o'clock this morning, more than 94,500 customers remain without power in Pinellas County, more than 6,500 in Polk County. The company expects most will be restored by late tomorrow night. The TECO outage map indicates that as of 6 this morning, 182,000 customers are without power in Hillsborough, Polk, and Pasco counties. TECO will likely restore power to Hillsborough customers